Hey guys, it's me EODGamer here, and this is going to be my pre-release for Jingliu, my build guide of what I am planning to do as well. Of course, it's still subjected to change. The finalized build guide will be out once more official information is released. You know, we don't discuss leaks on this channel, so all I'm going to do is tell you what I am preparing for my own account, and unfortunately I can't justify with like exact groundings right now, but know that with dreaming and predictions, a lot of this is already planned out, as some of you might have seen already. So first things first, let's start off with the 4-piece relics, and then we'll go into the 2-piece. I'll talk about some main stats that I'm looking at, as well as Lightcones and some key team members I think is very vital to consider as well. So first things first, out of all the 4-piece set, I think the one that is the most everyone's going to be thinking about is Hunter of Glacial Forest. This is very good because she's an ice destruction character, ice damage, crit damage, it's generally universal. I think this is pretty solid. The only downside for Hunter of Glacial Forest, if you go back into like all the relic domains right here and see, the efficiency of farming this is actually pretty low. Let me just show you. You have this wind set over here, which other, like Blade doesn't even want to use this. Base Danheng could use this, like the 2-piece, but this second effect is like not very good. So the efficiency of this domain is actually very low, and that's one of the main reasons why I'm like half-hearted to Hunter of Glacial Forest. It is a good set theoretically, just that efficiency wise, when I have many characters to build, I don't know whether I want to do it. So that is my first thought. The other option that I have, which I'm leaning more towards for efficiency, is Longevous Disciple. This one is pretty good because it increases HP by 12%. A destruction character generally has higher taunt value, especially if you pair with a character like Nickss. You likely will be hit more often than not, so this is a favorable trait. 4-piece here, when you are hit or you have their HP consumed by ally or themselves, crit rate increases by 8%. If she is drawing a lot of aggro and you're playing her, well, for example, the one getting hit, you're not playing with a thick shielder in a sense. I think this is very good for a very efficient 16% crit rate here in the substats, of course. I think it's really good. I will likely lean towards a little more towards a Longevous Disciple because I likely won't run with shielders, like thick shielders. So I think it's pretty useful for her in a sense. If you run with Nickss, the current 1.34 star that was released, I think it'll be very useful too. So that is for like the 4-piece. There are of course other builds that you can go. You can always go like a hybrid between, for example, 2-piece Ice and maybe 2-piece Longevous Disciple. But why I like to go to the 4-piece is because for DPS characters, this is actually quite nice. You get, this is like 32% worth of crit damage equivalent. This is like 25%. Crit damage is very massive, rather than going for like just a 2-piece. But of course, if you don't have time to farm all the way, just try to use a 2-piece for now. I guess that's fine. But that's also why we're doing this video earlier, so we have more time to prepare and plan for the future too. The last set that I wouldn't like super recommend, but I think is also worth considering, is Guard of Wuthering Snow. With a bit of damage reduction for an aggressive character, Destruction is generally more aggressive character, and beginning of turn, if you have less than 50%, restore some HP. I would say that if you have no time to farm like proper sets, you could run a 2-piece Guard of Wuthering Snow and maybe 2-piece Longevous or 2-piece Hunter of Glacial Forest, depending on what you're looking at. Should be more or less fine. Last but not least, of course, is a 2-piece Messenger Traversing Hackerspace, always useful for a little bit more speed on DPS characters. But generally, I think a 4-piece Longevous, 4-piece Hunter of Glacial Forest will be my preferred choice, especially if you have good enough substats, because 4-piece is generally a bit harder to max out the substats to be perfect. And what build am I planning to go for? I am going for, in terms of the body, there are many that I can go for, but I think I will likely push for crit damage. Ideally looking for attack percentage, HP percentage, effect rest, and speed, for example, in the substats as well. I don't think crit rate is going to be very important. Just a gut feeling. Main stat for the boot here, I think the choice between attack or HP is a bit trickier depending on what characters you are running with her. If you are running with like Bronya, for example, I think attack likely will be better because you can just bump her up, but speed makes her a little bit more independent. You get more energy restoration also. Really depends on what gear you're running. If you're, for example, running the free-to-play Lightcone, which we'll talk about in a bit, you get quite a bit of attack percentage there, so in that case you can switch to speed. But I guess the rule of thumb is if you already have an attack buffer on your team, you can lean towards speed. If you're running an attack percentage Lightcone, you can lean towards speed, depending on what is the current Lightcones that you have available. We'll talk about that in the Lightcone section. The boot is the one that is like most subjected to change. Just remember that right now. And now let's talk about the second part, which is the planet ornaments. This is the 2 pieces. There are 3 main sets that I'm actually thinking about. I'll give you some of the rationale and explanation why, and also talk about the main stats that I'm looking for these ones. First, of course, is Celestial Differentiator. I think this is pretty nice because it increases crit damage by 16%. If she's anything like Yanting and she doesn't scale with crit rate, crit damage is ideally the way to go, because if she overcraps on crit rate, for example with Inert Salsoto or Rutilant Arena, these are all wasted stats, even though you get this like additional a bit of damage here and there. Generally, universal crit damage 16% applies to all of her kit, which is much better than say for example basic attack or skill damage increase or ultimate damage increase by a 15% amount. And this one over here, when you have your current damage reach 120% or higher, usually it's not the case where it's very useful for most characters because this is like kind of wasted. But for Jingliu's case, maybe she has her ultimate ability or she has a state that gives her a lot of crit rate. In that case, this 60% could be used to mitigate before she enters the special state as well. I think this is very useful too, if that's the case. Otherwise, then maybe this is just also irrelevant, but we will see how it goes. Next up, we have Sprightly Von Wack. I think it's also worth considering. If she has a special state that she wants to enter in and you don't really build her that high on speed, like 120 is relatively medium amount of speed, especially if you're running like fast characters in your roster, maybe you're playing fast Bronya. In that case, having this action advance is very useful because you can reallocate a lot of speed stats into attack percentage, possibly even running for example like attack percentage boot and still hitting 120 speed too. Energy restoration is of course a little bit useful, so this is more of a thematic one where you can help her enter special state much quicker because you are acting first, use Bronya, push her up again, she attacks again, and stuff like that, just a bit more speed stats. I wouldn't say it's like more generalistic than Celestial Differentiator. I think it's a bit more niche and for people who are looking for specific comps, but it's worth considering too for something that is different from a lot of people, yet still quite usable for this case. Next up, we have Broken Kill. I think Broken Kill will probably be like the most efficient set to farm, because when you farm Broken Kill, you can also farm Rutilant Arena. It's very good. In this case, if you're farming Celestial Differentiator, you are farming with, I think, Thalia or Pan Galactic Commercial Express, which is not as versatile as these two sets, which are very usable. And that is why I would actually recommend a little bit more towards Broken Kill compared to Celestial Differentiator, just because of the efficiencies you get when you are farming Broken Kill. A lot of characters can use this set too. It gives crit damage, although a little bit less, like 6% less, but what you get is effect rest, and when you have at least 30% effect rest, you will get your whole party basically gets more crit damage, which is why I think Broken Kill likely will be slightly better than Celestial Differentiator, but of course you lose out on this first attack being like high crit rate. If you're like finishing matches very quickly, I think Celestial Differentiator is the way to go. If you are a whale, you want to like quickly burst down enemies, you have like E6 or something, Celestial Differentiator likely will be more optimal, because this one attack is significant considering that you only have maybe 2 or 3 attacks before your round ends. Whereas Broken Kill here is really better with the longer your fights are dragged out, and especially if you don't have as high investment, and that's my thought process so far. For Planar Spear, definitely I think ice damage bonus, most of us would know this one because she's an ice DPS character. And for Link Rope, I think the question here would then lie, do you want energy restoration or attack percentage? Personally, I'm leaning a bit more towards energy or attack percentage. Energy restoration rate I don't think is as critical for DPS. You could do with 1-2 turns without her ultimate ability. I don't think it's as detrimental. A bit more is nice to have if you have a very nice energy restoration rate rope with like very nice crit subs with attack percentage subs. By all means, go ahead. But I think for the most part, attack percentage, I would be leaning towards that approach as well. So that's my thoughts on like the relics so far. Now let's go into like the light cones and I'll share with you what are my thought process. Destruction. So I'm not going to talk about the 5-star limiteds, because if you have them, likely you will have used them on other characters already. If you have them, likely they're going to be quite good too, although it's a lot of crit rate for Brighter Than the Sun and Unreachable Sight. Her limited light cone is definitely going to be best in slot for her as well, so I'm not going to be elaborating on that. The first one I want to talk about is something irreplaceable before we go talk about the other free-to-play 5-star light cone. This can be traded in the shop, so if you save long enough, you can eventually get this. I think out of all of like the non-limited light cones and not her limited light cone, this is probably the best because it gives you good amounts of attack percentage, which means that you can consider running speed boots as well because it supplements this. And when you defeat enemy or is hit, you have a bit of self-sustain that scales off with attack percentage or your wearer's attack. A nice amount of restore, and at the same time of course you have a damage increase of 24%. All of it she can use quite well. I think something irreplaceable probably will be my preferred choice if I had it. Unfortunately I don't, so I think On the Fall of Aeon is the other one that I'm looking at for Jingliu. I have this at Super Imposition 5. I'll be building it and comparing it with other Lightcones as well. So you can check back on the channel when it goes live and you want to see exactly the difference if you are still like preparing or anything. Whenever the wearer attacks, their attack is increased by 16% in this battle, stacks up to 4 times. This is a massive amount. 16% times 4, there's like 64% attack bonus. Definitely I'll run speed boots when I'm using it on the 4 of the Aeon. And when the wearer inflicts weakness break, you get an additional damage increase by 24%. It's very, very nice. So 1058, 529, and we compare it to, for example, like this. So it's like slightly inferior in terms of HP and attack stats for her, but it is free, so I think it's definitely good value to pick up. The reason why this one is actually good, this 5-star, is she can't really use the other Lightcones very well. Attack percentage is so-so. You do get a lot of it from 4 of Aeon already. Here, damage percentage is nice. If you have the full effect, it will likely be better. But the main issue here is, of course, you aren't able to, for example, proc this second part, perhaps if she doesn't have anything that sets her own life to make sure that she has very, very low life. Another thing is, of course, you want to have a bit more attack percentage because her damage might cap off based on attack percentage for one of her skills as well, which more information will be out once there's more official information. But I think this amount of 64%, pretty healthy to get like the attack percentage going. Under the blue sky, same crit rate, not very important, even though you get some attack. And last but not least, wolf walk time here. Attack percentage is okay, it's quite low, but here you don't want to really limit yourself in your options of burn and bleed team compositions, and that is why I'll prefer on the 4 of Aeon. I think the Battle Pass Lightcone is also pretty decent. You have decent amounts of attack, you have some sustain. This is like a miniature, something irreplaceable if you don't have this one, but by and large, I like 4 of Aeon a little bit more. Okay, last section for now for this guide. I think that some characters that I'm thinking of building is definitely going to be Nickss. Nickss has a skill here which pushes the aggro towards a Path of Destruction or Preservation character. Jingliu's Destruction, she takes more damage, draws the aggro, has her HP increase slightly, has some sort of restoration, but energy is funneled to her because when Jingliu gets attacked, she also restores energy. I think Nickss is going to be very strong. She has a team-wide debuff Cleanse, which is super good. Probably going to be one of the better supports for her as well. If you don't have Nickss, I think another one is pretty useful is LyouRika. LyouRika generally works very well for characters that are more offensive in nature, especially if a team is scaling off of attack percentage. He scales off of attack percentage, can benefit quite a lot from that as well. A good feel that is also having like cleansers in his kit. He has good amounts of remove enemies buff, reliable feel here that even when he sees it, he also can provide some healing. I think LyouRika is very strong too. The other options, of course, are healer characters like Natasha, Bailu. These two are going to be quite solid as well for Jingliu, especially if she has some sort of HP sapping mechanics from the entire team. Fucc likely would fall behind in terms of keeping up with the sustain. I think that if you run like a character like Fucc, you likely still have to run with a second healer to keep it up, but more testing has to be done. You can always run Fucc in the other half and your healer in the other half, and you probably are more or less good to go. So those are like some of my thoughts. One interesting one that I'm actually thinking about is Blade and Jingliu. The question is whether this the Suhu's gift, when you, for example, lose some HP, if your ally takes it up, does it count as a stack? Because here it's only just consume his HP or sustains damage. I don't think sacrificing HP from your teammates is considered as sustaining damage, but we'll see how that goes. If it is the case, it could be probably a very interesting team composition to go for. But yeah, anyways, stay tuned on the channel. Check out this team composition video right here where I go more in depth with Jingliu's team comps too. And of course, otherwise, I'll be releasing one for Topaz if any of you who are interested in that as well. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next video.